Good morning, friends and followers. It's another Monday. It's a wet and rainy Monday at that. But get on up. Let's go out there and go do some real good out there today. Let's start off the week right. Um, and as usual, I have something to share with you, but as is my usual disclaimer, this is an opportunity for me to share something that I've learned, something that, I think will benefit you. If you get something good out of it, wonderful. It's in no way instructive. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. Ooh, what's that? I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but at the same time, it's good advice. If you don't find it useful, if you find it useful, go ahead, share it with your friends and loved ones. If you don't find it useful, go ahead and share it anyway, because I'm going to share it anyway. But yeah, so let's get out and do some good, and I'm going to get right to it. So, what I'm going to share today is simply this. Be fair and consistent in the way you treat others. As much as possible, or as much as it's within your power, show less favoritism and be less utilitarian in your approach. I'll explain a little bit of that in the rest of the video, but you always want to remember who you are and the reasons you chose to walk a particular path and be consistent. Now, in other words, basically, you want to make sure that you're treating others fairly. Don't try to edit or adjust the way that you treat people to people, based on what you're going to gain or glean from those people. A lot of the times that becomes the way that we live life, and that tends to not bode well in our relationships. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a personal story. Some of my friends know this story very well, and and then try to use that as a way to kind of communicate what the point that I'm trying to get across. So during my first year in opening my own practice, there was a patient that came to the practice. Now, as most of you may know, or some of you may know, those who are close to me, I'm not a big fan of online reviews, and I'll get into that some other time as to why I don't think it's a great tool. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that, but I think it's what people have made it to be. That is why I have such an aversion towards it. I think it's useful of course I read it. I read online reviews to help me make a decision on whether I go to one place or another. But I always read it with a grain of salt, knowing how the human heart sort of works, or having some understanding of how our human heart works. But I'm going to go back to the story anyway. So during my first year as an entrepreneur, there was a young patient that came to the office. She just walked off the street, came in, wanted to know if we accepted her coverage, which we didn't. Looked around for a little while. One of my workers, or one of my employees, helped her out, was kind of talking her through what she may need. She didn't end up making any purchases, but she left and told the employee that she was going to come back in a couple of days to have an eye exam. Now, so she made an appointment. She was coming in a couple of days later to have an eye exam. So I get home. Now, I overheard the whole conversation, and there was nothing that was negative. The employee, gave the patient the best possible care and engagement and whatnot as possible. So there was nothing by way of a negative experience that I sort of sensed from or gauged from what that interaction, or how that interaction went. But I get home and I get a notification on my phone that somebody had left a negative review online. So I go and I read it, and it's this patient who came in early on that day, that had left a negative review. Now, it was a very non-specific review. It was very much, well, I went to this place and, they don't take my insurance, and, I've made an appointment to go back, but we'll see. It was just very much like that. So I was, of course, very taken aback, and, in a way, it sort of pricked my ego a little bit, because, first year in practice, you want to always sort of maintain a very good reputation online, So I had an immediate reaction of, who is this person, and why does she feel like she has to go ahead and leave this negative review when she hasn't even had an exam with me? She hasn't even encountered me, she hasn't even had the chance to meet me, and she's going ahead to leave this negative review. So of course I reached out to the platform where the review was left, and I told them, I sent a message to them saying, the patient didn't really receive any services, so I don't think that it's fair for her to actually leave a review. And guess what? The platform responds and says, yeah, the review is valid. It stays. So I said, okay. So now here it is. This patient is coming 2 days later to have an eye exam, and I was an anxious wreck. I was like, what do I do if this woman comes and I encounter her? Do I bring up the issue of the review? Do I ask her about it? Do I confront her about it? What do I do in the situation that she shows up for this encounter, and I'm still sort of unhappy about the way she's treated me, so to speak. So in the days leading up to that, the examination, I was a nervous wreck. I just didn't know what to do. So then the day arrives. She's prepped for the exam, and as I'm getting ready to go in one of the most profound moments of my early career, or my young career, a voice says to me, or asks the question, why did you open this practice? And then in a moment, I remember why I opened the practice. The reason I opened the practice was really to serve people. It's really to provide the best possible care for people, regardless of who they are, regardless of how I'm treated, regardless of everything. Now, I've had to experience different things that I probably will share over time, but in that moment, I realized that I needed to actually remember who I was and why I made a decision to go in to open a practice, and what it is that I am hoping to accomplish with that practice. And in that moment, that voice also said to me, go in and treat her the same way you would treat anybody else. Or go in and treat her the same way you have treated everybody else that has come through here, and not based on whether she has given you a negative or positive review. Like that, all my anxiety melted away. I went in there, I treated her the same way I would treat any of my patients. We talked, we laughed, we had a great encounter, and eventually when she left, she was so happy. She was just a content patient. And guess what happened? That evening when I went, that patient went online to that platform, changed her review to a stellar one. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm not telling you this because, at the end of the day, I want a victory of some sort, and that the patient went and changed their review, and that's the greatest thing in the world. I'm telling you this because it's important that we don't edit things, or we don't sort of contrive things, or force and mold fake appearances to get results, or certain results. We need to always remember who we are. We need to always go back to the space and try to understand why we do what we do, and that in a way would produce great results. Now, I would still tell you the story regardless of whether the patient ended up giving me a good review or not. But because the moment for me wasn't so much that the patient went and changed their impression of myself and the practice, it was that I got a moment to remember. Was the moment for me was when I remembered who I was and why I chose to walk the path that I was walking. I mean, regardless of what the outcome was going to be. So again, like I said, it's important that we be fair and consistent in the way that we treat others. We have to show less favoritism and think less about what the outcome should be. We should always remember the reasons why we are walking a particular path, and not be cornered to customize it and change things just because we want certain specific outcomes. I hope this speaks to somebody. I hope this helps somebody. I hope you go out there this Monday, start off the week right, do some good. If this helped you, share it with others. Now, if you also have any feedback, please don't hesitate. Give me feedback. Let me know what is helping, what is working, what is not working. And I'm not averse to that. I learn every day. But don't give me feedback without having watched the complete video, because half of an opinion is no opinion at all, in my opinion. Anyway, I hope you go out there, have a great, wonderful week, and yeah, do some good. All right, peace.